everybody, it's Monday. I almost said February. That's how off I am. It's March 11th. And when I ended last week's vlog, I was in the middle of 5 books. Starting this week, I am still in the middle of 4 of those books, but I did finish Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman last night. So that's an achievement. I finally got to the point where I had enough time to sit down and read all of the high. But no, I got to the point where I knew that I wanted to read the rest of it in one setting. And I just wasn't finding the time to do that. But last night I was able to do it, which is good because it was due back today. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm really, really keen to see what happens in the next book because some of the more like religious aspects are coming into play, and now I'm really intrigued by where that story's going, because that seems like a whole extra layer that we haven't even explored. So far every book's kind of focused on a different like governing body, because the first book really focused on the Scythedom, and then the second one has a lot more to do with the Thunderhead, and so I feel like the Tonists, which are kind of like the religious sects, are probably going to be a bigger presence in the third book, which I'm excited for. Let's adjust this camera angle a little bit. As far as the other 4 books, I haven't made any progress on Sabriel. I've made a little bit of progress on Redwall, not a lot, but I think I listened to a little chunk of it yesterday while I was running some errands. I am a little over halfway through The Devil in the White City. And boy, if I've discovered anything about true crime, there is nothing that's going to make you more paranoid than true crime. Holmes in this is awful. Just like the worst kind of human, and like makes me sick constantly. Just, it's really gross. It's really gross, the stuff that he's doing. Oh man, he was not a good person. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I'm enjoying the crap out of it. It's really like I knew true crime was gonna be genuinely quite creepy, and that I was going to it was going to like speak to all of the aspects of my weird, creepy, oddball self. But oh man, Holmes is just, he's next level. He is, whew, God, he's just gross. He's gross. The way it approaches explaining like some of the things that happen in this book are just so casually done, to the point where I don't even like process how horrible some of this stuff is until I really start thinking about it. But it's just written in such a way that like this is just Holmes' day-to-day life. This is just what he does. And it's very casual and routine in a way, but the entire time you're just like, wait, no, this guy is purposefully like luring women into his hotel so that he can murder them. I also made a pretty good chunk of progress on La Morte d'Arthur by Thomas Mallory. I'm reading the Caxton publication of it, which is broken out into 21, 22 books, somewhere in there. And I just finished book 2, which I think puts me about 25% of the way through the first volume. So hopefully I'll be able to continue to progress through that. Are you hunting yourself? I'm gonna be honest, I'm doing quite a bit of skimming. I know it's one of those things that no matter how thoroughly I read it, I'm not really gonna absorb it completely just because of the way it's written. What I would like to do is I would like to do a kind of really quick read of it, and then go into a bunch of the different Arthurian legend stories that people have adapted using it, and really kind of read the different interpretations, and then maybe in a few years come back to this like source material and read it after seeing how all of these different authors have fleshed it out a whole bunch, because I think that would be fun. So this first time going through, I'm going through it pretty quickly. I'm not like taking a huge amount of time to try to absorb all of the different character arcs and things that are going on. And there's definitely like some areas that I'm more excited to get to than others. Some of the like drawn out wars or the arcs for characters that I don't care as much about, I'm trying to just kind of like speed through as fast as possible. But it's one of those things that as I'm reading it, um, man, Merlin is just a puppet master. But each little section has like a summarizing heading, and a lot of them are Merlin predicts this, Merlin foretells this, Merlin does this because he knows everything. That's kind of how it's read so far, and you know what? That's perfect. I love it. Dang. Hey everybody, it's Friday. I got kind of sick midweek, and so I didn't film any updates. Okay, really, really quickly, I finished The Devil in the White City. This was awesome and terrifying and made me super uncomfortable and paranoid about everything in life. I want to read more true crime. Like, I want that in my life. If you have recommendations, throw them my way. I enjoyed this immensely. But this one's really interesting. You are, like, taking up 90% of my frame here. Come here. Yep. There you go. You're comfy now, aren't you? Cool. But this one has a good balance, I feel like. We're having a lot of, like, historical facts and architecture anecdotes and all of the, like, things going on with the fair. And there was a whole bunch of information about the Ferris wheel and how that kind of got constructed and everything like that. And that was really cool. So there's a lot of stuff in here to break up, like, the super awful, like, make you sick to your stomach kind of, psychopath dude. So that was appreciated in this book. It made it a little bit more tolerable. And, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Also finished Redwall. This is just delightful. I definitely, like, listened to the last section while I was in my most not feeling well state, so I kind of zoned in and out of it, but I still, like, I don't know, I cherish this story. I'm so glad it exists. It's really fun. And now, like, I'm flipping through this, and I forgot that I had, like, this super cool edition that has some of this awesome art in it. So now I'm going to have to flip through this and look at all of the awesome art. Like, that is stunning. Look how cool. Oh, man, this is great. Look at this. This is when they're trying to figure out the riddle. I love it. Love it. Now I'm just going to flip through this. Y'all can check back with me later. I'm busy. So I finished those two, and then I started the audiobook for Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This is trying to figure out how to explain it. This is kind of a post-apocalyptic story. A flu has wiped out most of the Earth's population, and it's kind of just the recovery after that. But it's not that at all, because it's also a story about fame. It's weird. It's a non-linear story, so you get a lot of stuff before and after the flu. And it has various characters who all magically still, like, connect in a lot of ways after the flu. They're all survivors and manage to still kind of sort of have ties back into each other's lives. In a lot of ways, it's a zombie novel without the zombies. And it's self-aware of that, at least. But I didn't really care that much for the non-linear storytelling. I didn't like a lot of the characters. And just the nature of the story itself. It was very intentional the way it was told, but there's no real, like, closure in anything. Like, everything just kind of feels anticlimactic. Like, there's a lot of threads that are built up that just kind of whimper out, and it was just, I don't know. I wasn't crazy about this book. For one thing, I mean, everything about this book that I was pitched was that it was kind of a post-apocalyptic in which you follow a group of traveling performers who go around and perform like Shakespeare. That seemed interesting to me. That doesn't have a huge amount to do with what this story actually is. I mean, it's there, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's just kind of like randomly crammed in here, and none of it really gels well for me. Like, it tries to do some cool juxtapositions with the before and after the pandemic, but it's just, it doesn't work. And when I was working my way through this, there was a lot of times where I thought, okay, something's going to be revealed at some point that really ties all of this together in a way that I feel like is worth the time that I'm investing into this book. Go away, Kat. You're making all of this way more challenging than it needs to be. We didn't really get anything that was super satisfying in this book. Like, there was a lot of cool ideas, and there was some things that it introduced that I really thought could go some really cool places, but then ultimately it never really went those places. But then also, like, me understanding a little bit about this book, I think a lot of that's intentional. It still doesn't really work for me. It still is not really what I would consider an entertaining read. I think the author did what they set out to do. I don't think they meant for it to be this big climactic story. It's definitely meant to be more of an understated story. But I don't know. There was just a lot of stuff in it that was just kind of big and over the top that never really went anywhere. Like, there's things with people reacting to this pandemic in very religious ways, and there's all of these prophets and people, like, trying to shape the world based on their preconceived notions, and there's, like, things like that could have been really interesting, but it never really went anywhere, and there's a lot of that in the story. The thing that I kind of go back and forth on, and I'm not really sure if I buy, is the state of technology in this post-pandemic world, because it's been, I think, 15 years since the flu came through, and the flu basically just showed up, wipes out a huge percentage of the population, and then it's just, like, not a big deal anymore. So it's just a device, basically, to say what happens if you just wipe out a huge chunk of the population all in one fell swoop. Then what happens to civilization after that? So this is 15 years later, and I feel like people should be more advanced. Like, the idea that they can't figure out how to get at least some form of technology back, like, the idea that they are without electricity, like, completely, it seems kind of silly to me. Like, I feel like there's gotta be ways that people who are surviving would figure out ways to generate electricity. I mean, there's things like solar energy. There's things that make sense that people would still be able to research because there's books about them. Like, people would be like, oh, well, we don't know how to do anything, so we're just basically starting like cavemen. I'm just like, no, you have all of this infinite knowledge in, like, all of these libraries that are just hanging around vacant everywhere. Go and read a book and learn how to rebuild civilization. Like, I feel like maybe we were just stuck with some of the biggest dummies, because hopefully elsewhere in the world they'd kind of figured out how to like start rebuilding civilization back in a faster means. But I mean, the idea that it's been 15 years and people hadn't figured out how to start, like, generating electricity. I mean, it just bothered me.
Like, there's times where I bought it, and there's other times where I'm just like, no, somebody would have figured it out by now. Like, there would be ways to do that wouldn't be that difficult. Like, you could research and figure that out. I don't know, but maybe that's just my own naiveness, and I don't really know how complicated electricity is, but I feel like, I mean, if one of like the early science experiments you could do is to get a potato battery, like, surely to goodness, over 15 years, these people who basically have nothing to do but learn how to survive and rebuild civilization would have figured out a way to generate some electricity. So, yeah, this was a weird one. It was a little bit all over the place for me, and I just, I don't know. I wasn't crazy about it. I had high hopes going into it. I know a lot of people really like it, but I wasn't crazy about it. It bothered me on a lot of fronts. Okay, I think the last book that I'm just going to mention, I just started it, so don't expect a lot to be said about it, but I did start The Once and Future King by T.H. White. I'm like 20 pages in. I'm already really like into the way it's structured. I'm already like super down for what they're doing with Arthur, because for me, Arthur is the most important character to get right. And he has to be just genuinely one of the best human beings as far as just his compassion, and you have to at least make me believe that he is a beloved figure. And this so far is starting out in a situation where I'm already believing that, and it's just him as a child so far, but I'm buying it. But I went ahead and decided to go ahead and start this one because I have it checked out from the library. So one thing, I have a due date that I have to worry about, but two, I just think that Lamort d'Arthur is going to take me a little bit longer to get through, just based on the fact that it's a little bit more of an archaic text, and it's not a real page turner the way that I think that this book's going to be, and so it's going to be one that I just kind of gradually work my way through over time, whereas this, I think I will devour. I will eat this book with some steak sauce, and it'll be delicious. I don't know why steak sauce is the first thing that came to my mind. I'm vegan, but as far as I know, steak sauce is vegan. So maybe I just miss steak sauce. Maybe I just need to like put some steak sauce on some broccoli or something. that went weird directions. I wasn't expecting. Hey everybody, it's Sunday, March 17th. I'm not wearing green. Just realized that. But fortunately, when I post this, it'll be after St. Patrick's Day, plus the technology to pinch someone through the internet hasn't been developed yet. So I'm good. So yeah, this week's been kind of off. I haven't been feeling great, and I feel like all of my updates have been super lethargic. So we're just gonna keep going on that same train of lethargy and get through this last update, because I'm still kind of out of it. So I've made it just a touch further in The Once and Future King. We have Merlin now, and he's super absurd and over the top, and I love him, and I'm super excited to get further along in that book. I also started The Fires of Heaven, book 5 of Wheel of Time. So I'm killing it. I'm starting my this month's Wheel of Time book, not the last week of the month, which is pretty exciting to me. I'm like, I've barely started that, so I have nothing to say other than it's begun. And then the last book that I'm going to update you guys on is Sabriel. I am about halfway through reading this physically. It doesn't really change a lot of the opinions that I had on it. I just don't really care for the writing style in this book at all. It does that thing where the things that I don't care about, it spends way too much time on, and then the things that I think are super crucial and important, it just glazes right past. Like, the best example I can think of is that there's an instance where the main character decides to do something that can literally have, like, devastating results on tons of people, and she reflects on it after the fact when she kind of sees the carnage of what she just did. She reflects on it for like a paragraph, and then it just moves on. But immediately following that, it spends like 2 pages describing her outfit. So I'm not, I'm not into that writing style. It focuses a lot on like details and setting the scene and stuff like that, but then there's not a lot to the scenes once you actually get all of the establishing shot kind of information taken care of. Then there's I don't know, I just don't feel the character development is recognized, and I don't feel like the emotional toll of what's going on has really been explored as much as I would like it to. So I'm still very lukewarm about this series. I will probably start the second book because I own it, so I would like to at least give that one a chance. I know it is like a very popular series, so I would like to give that one a chance just to see if it's like a weird, like this first book just isn't great. But I'm just not enjoying it. And that's it. That's my big final hurrah for this kind of lackluster vlog. I apologize. The problem with weekly vlogs is they're weekly. And so when you have an off week, you still kind of, I don't know, you just have an off vlog, I guess. So, yeah, hopefully next week I'll have more energy and be able to convey how I'm feeling about these books a little better. After editing what footage I have already, I'm just like, man, I was just out of it for most of that. But I feel like I'm on the upswing, so hopefully next week you'll have a better vlog. But right now you're just stuck with this. I apologize.